I would normally say, what do we know about Todd Blanche? But the truth of the matter is, we know an awful lot about Todd Blanche.
Yeah, we know so much about Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, and that's because he's literally been over the shoulder of President Donald Trump on so many instances. He is a former personal attorney of the president who represented him in 3 cases. The classified documents case, that was like the major bombshell case that came out more than 2 years ago, where the president was accused of holding on to classified documents. He was the guy who was one of the lead attorneys representing the president in that matter. And then there's the election interference case, where the president was accused of telling people to go up to Capitol Hill on January 6th, 2021 and interfere with the legal transfer of power after the 2020 election. He too, Todd Blanche, was one of those attorneys inside court with him here at the district court, the federal district court in Washington, D.C., representing the president. I remember the president showed up at one of those hearings. Todd Blanche, with an array of other attorneys, was one of the main ones, really became a figurehead representing the president. And then there's the hush money case in New York City. Because cameras are not allowed inside federal courtrooms, we didn't really get a glimpse as to what was happening inside, unless you're like me, inside those federal courtrooms. But we did see what was happening in the building in that hush money case in New York, because cameras were allowed. We weren't talking about a federal case there, that was a local case. And so you would see Todd Blanche every afternoon when the president came out to make statements as to what happened with those proceedings. Todd Blanche was right there. There he goes on the screen, just right over his shoulder all the time. And so he became a face for the president's team of people who were defending him with all of these matters. And then when the president won again, because remember there he was candidate Trump, when he won and entered the White House once again, Todd Blanche became one of those folks who got a really elevated position. Not only Todd Blanche, but D. John Sauer, the Solicitor General of the United States. That's someone who we saw inside the Supreme Court yesterday. So you have these people who were really close to the president on a personal basis, who were then elevated and transitioned over into the government and started to represent him in many instances, not so much working for the people of the United States, but to many people it really seemed as if they were representing the president's agenda in the things that they were pursuing when it came to the operations of the Justice Department. So here we have it. We know that Todd Blanche will now, according to the president really helps journalists out quite a bit by putting things out on social media. He will be in that position in an acting manner, and we've seen it with the former DHS secretary. We then quickly saw a transition into the new DHS secretary. So we will see what will happen in this particular instance if Todd Blanche will ultimately be confirmed by the Senate as the new Attorney General of the United States.
You answered my question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Are we to assume that Todd Blanche will once again act more as his personal attorney, the president's personal attorney, as opposed to the people's attorney, which is what the AG is supposed to be?
Well, if you look on Todd Blanche's social media, you often see that he's very vocal and really echoes many of the sentiments that President Donald Trump himself puts out on social media. So many folks who criticize the current state of the Justice Department believe that they really will continue to operate in such a mode, regardless of if we have Pam Bondi at the head or if we have now Todd Blanche at the head. We will have these people who will continue to operate in a way that's appealing to an audience of one, the President of the United States.
Yeah.
And if I may say one more thing, sure. Pam Bondi, she was inside the U.S. Supreme Court yesterday. Yes, she was inside the High Court yesterday for this really big case that was so important to the administration. President Donald Trump was also there. Really incredible moment. Many of the journalists who were inside the High Court were whispering, is she sitting right next to him? Because we couldn't always see what was going on. And there was a moment, Del, where some of the journalists who had a better view said, are they playing musical chairs? Are they switching who is sitting right next to the president? And is Pam Bondi being moved away from being close to the president? We weren't quite able to confirm that, but that's something that the rumblings have been going on for quite some time now. We saw that yesterday. She was extremely close to him on the first bench of the public seating in the Supreme Court, and then now, less than 24 hours after that moment, we have this news that she will no longer be Attorney General of the United States.
Safe to say she is now on the backbench of the President's Justice Department. Scripps News Legal Affairs correspondent Avajoy Burnett. Avajoy, thank you very much. And also, we will be watching to see whether or not she still has to testify before the House committee on April 14th. That is when she is scheduled to appear. We will keep you posted. You're watching Scripps News on the Scene.